Hello, this is Diplomatic Times, right down here at Bugema University in Kasese with these lovely youth and students. You are Miss?
Alice Birungi.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Alice.
Nice to meet you, Alan.
Thank you. How about you?
My name is Richard.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Richard.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, how are books?
We are trying with them.
Yeah, of course. Right now, we are going to the chat we are going to have between you two. It's all about youth and what is happening right now in our country.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
we are glad to host you.
Yes, it is all about youth being unemployed. True. Yeah, youth, they are idle these days. You find them we have graduates who are in town grabbing bags.
Yes,
That is now stealing.
they're on streets.
Then we have some of them, they play cards every day.
Yes.
It's because they don't have jobs. So I really want to hear from you as youth. Do you think this current government is the cause of all this?
Yes, thank you so much, Alan.
Yeah.
According to me, the youth are truly unemployed, and the government may have attributed towards the unemployment problems towards the youth because they are highly educated, they attain the high levels of education, but on the other hand, there are no jobs created to them. And that's why you find a parent having invested much in a child or a student ends up selling land, finishing all the property, but at the end of it all, the child comes home and begins begging from their parent. And thus, some of them have gone into betting, and the entire money or pocket money that is left is all spent, and you find that they are really hopeless and end up losing more hope, despairing, and end up to streets where they live a very miserable life. So the government has really attributed much because it hasn't created enough jobs to these graduates. Thank you.
Yeah, and how about you?
Okay.
What's your opinion about it?
Thank you very much, Helen, for this time.
Yeah.
It's true that most of our students are going through pain and they try to get fees from here and there. And at the end, when they finish up with their levels of education, they hardly get where to get jobs from. In this context, I think the government of Uganda has a role that is negative towards this influence in the current development of the economy. One, you find that we have an education system that is not matching with the current requirements of the country. For example, one who studies, we are doing things like history, we are referring to many areas in some other areas or countries abroad, and we lack some relevant information that can be applied in our day-to-day life situation. Look at an instance where someone talks about the Canadian prairies and the development of these other countries. When it comes to our real life situations, we are not having any benefit that is actually got from that. So we spend a lot of time, a lot of money, but in the end, the information that we get is not relevant to the need of the current situation. In addition, the government has played a good role of trying to create more districts or administrative units. But you find that even those ones that existed before, they do not have enough staff to operate. So in the end, they establish more others. Funds are used to develop those units, but again, the recruitment to cater for the needs of providing services to the community is not catered for. So in the end, you find that they are there, but you reach a certain administrative unit. If you go to Rukoki, for example, as the district headquarters, you may find that there is a space that lacks about 50 workers, and the services are not being provided. And yet in the community, we have people who can be able to provide these services to the what? To the community. But the government keeps with all those jobs and does not expose them to the youth for employment. So that one is one of the ways through which the government of Uganda has a role in as far as youth and employment is concerned.
Because according to me, when you reach in those offices, like in public service, you find people, those who have exceeded the age. They used to say when you reach 50 years, then you're supposed to retire peacefully and go to home. But these days, you find 60 years, they are still in service. Whereby universities, 100 people, they graduate every day. People graduate every day, or when they're actually, those are youth now. We are being employed because maybe our positions are being taken up by those old people. They have really worked, but they don't want to retire. Do you agree with me or not?
Yes, I do agree with you. And then because in most cases, you may find that people who are supposed to retire at 60 years, like as it is in Uganda, you find that they are exceeding the years, and even others are even requesting for contracts. You find that the government offers them contracts, and instead of performing, they become non-performers, because according to the lifespan of Ugandans and the entire Africans, there is a certain age limit where they work most, where their brain, they can think and have meaningful thoughts towards the youth, but they don't leave those offices. Instead, they continue and work on contract basis, whereby you find that the youth who qualify for those jobs, those offices, they begin bragging on the streets, and hence we accuse the government for having created all that. Thank you.
Thank you. In addition to that, Madam Helen, when you look at the current state, we have the state of where we have members of parliament and the cabinet ministers.
Yeah.
So you find that a member of parliament at the same time is a cabinet minister. That person earns twice when someone is at the village level not earning anything. You find someone is a minister in a certain area, and you cannot be a minister somewhere unless you are an MP, much as we have some ex-officials that are appointed.
Yeah.
But you find that the salary that would be used by a minister should not be the same that is used again to be given to an MP. So you find that the same angle, an MP earns around 2 to 3 times. So in this case, if that job had been left for some other person, it would also be pulling out those ones who remain in the villages. So when it comes to this, you find that there's no equal balancing or no equal opportunity in as far as development is concerned. So in addition to age, we have some people actually, when you even look at some of the parliamentary sessions, when you follow them, you find that in the house of around 529 MPs, we have some who just reach there. In the first 5 minutes, they are already falling out of their normal sessions. So the session ends when someone is in the session, but when he's not having anything that is contributing towards the what? The session and the proceedings that are in the parliament. So in the end, if that position had been put for some other person, so they discuss issues that concerns your area or your constituency to cater for the youth when you are not in your real sense. So in the end, what would you present them? So you lose because of the age. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Because normally we used to think people who do this, the house jobs, the housemaids, the houseboy, used to think maybe those are the people who never went to school or didn't go far in education. But these days, we see our youth, those ones, our parents have really struggled with us to pay the tuition, but at the end of it all, they are ending up in Middle East countries as housemaids, suffering. Sometimes you look at someone, I've ever talked to someone with all her bachelors in education from Chambogo University, but she was doing housemaiding and they were really mistreating her. What she was not eating. Before she eats, those people have to eat first, they darten the food, and after they will just give her the food. So, as we are seeing right now, the future of youth in Uganda is at stake. People are dying. Even others, the parents are not even aware whether the children are, or even whether they are there, or even whether they are dead. They have no news about them. But if those people help you, they will just send you the dead body of a child. You have invested all that money. So why do you really talk about it?
What Ellen you are talking about is indeed true, because most families have really lost their young ones. You find a girl of 20 years who has just completed maybe her bachelor's, or even others possess masters, indeed have really gone out for those greener pastures. But indeed, at the end of it all, they end up losing some of their important body organs like kidneys, and others even come when they are already disabled or weak enough to die, not even to spend a year. So what could have been the cause? Like we have said, in unemployment, where you find parents have invested a lot of money into their children, and when they lack jobs in Uganda, they tend to go out for those greener pastures, where a lot of mistreatment up to death level even occurs. So in Uganda, if the government is to do, maybe to play a certain role of maybe skilling the youth and maybe trying to inculcate the positive attitude towards certain jobs, instead of being job seekers, they become job creators, and they again support them with certain materials to use and provide market to the items they will have made. Maybe perhaps this tendency of the youth going for the greener pastures in those countries may also minimize. Recently we have had girls who have come back, but they have not even had the amount of money that is worth providing the medical bills, or clearing the medical bills, whereby their health can be properly maintained. So you find that they have really met a lot, and within a short period of time they end up dying because of such a jobs. Thank you.
Yeah, what you're saying is really true. You use a lot of energy, but all on earning peanuts, yet you go there for greener pastures. And there is something that I observed, that most of our youth here, because you have not worked anywhere, you will just be there looking for a job for 3 to 4 years, and then you decide to take that route, even though we all hear it's not good, but we have no other choice other than taking that route.
In addition to that one, some have even been despaired. They have lost all the hope, in that some have even decided to commit suicide, because if you just imagine how much you paid for tuition and all that to complete your studies, and at the end of it all there is no job, in so doing you may even end up committing suicide, because it's like all hope is gone, and you don't think of tomorrow that maybe you'll get another work to do, and in so doing they go, you find someone is being a housemaid, or a gatekeeper, or doing certain jobs which are not worth paying. When someone is earning 1 million, but says that dying poor in Uganda rather goes outside and gets all that form of mistreatment. Thank you.
In addition to that, actually, the youth have not to be blamed for this, because most of them have undergone through this education, and when you bring back the documents, they do not really relate with the application in the community. So they think that going abroad is the best way to go, so that they can be able to achieve, but in the end it is not something that is giving favor for them. I would specifically say, much as the government is saying that it's introducing some vocational skills and whatever, it has to put much of the emphasis on those vocational skills, so that a person who comes from a university or any other learning institution is able to do something that is useful to him. But in Uganda here is where you find someone that has a master's, a degree, or a PhD, but when it is something that is to be done on ground, there's nothing that someone can do. You go carrying your papers for master's and the PhD, but has nothing that assists you with. So the best way to do is actually emphasizing and putting much more emphasis on the content of the syllabus that is relevant the current situation. We are still running through the curriculums of the past years, which are not meeting the current needs for the youth, the current demand. So in this, if it is done, can overcome these unnecessary situations that we are undergoing when we see most of our children going abroad and they come back dead, and when nothing has really been done. It's true, there are some who come when they have achieved something, but if someone narrates to you the challenges, the situation they go through, actually they are suffering. Thank you.
Because we have seen whereby in those offices, when a gentleman is leaving the office, they bring their daughter or son to occupy the position, even when they don't have qualifications. I don't know what you have to say about it.
It is really true that some of these offices, they are all occupied by the people who don't qualify for them, because it's like leadership or one getting a job is not by merit. In so doing, you find that someone who does not qualify for it indeed gets it. It is in Uganda, it is you're known by who knows you, not necessarily having the documents that fit for that real job or that real position. That's why we find that some are overqualified for certain jobs and they have no jobs.
When I relate to that you are saying, currently there is this saga of the executive director of the airline, is something of the kind. This COSESA chairperson, Joel Senyonyi, is trying all the efforts to show that the job is really witnessed and they see whether the person who is in that position qualifies for it. It has been a saga that has been running for the whole week, but somehow you find that the president makes statements that supports the person who is holding the position. When asked about the academic procession, I went to Makerere University in the year 1994. I reached there, I don't find my documents, so you fail to understand. And this is the project that is making losses every now and then. You may not tell what could be the cause of the losses that you have made. So that implies that has a reflection that does towards the development of the economy. So you look at the money that is being lost in that same project to be used to employ some other people. Even when you look at the salary that person gets, then when you go deep into the details of the documents, does she qualify for that? So the government has a role that is playing towards the situation that the youth are going through.
Okay. So what do you think is the solution to all this?
Well, the government has a role to play as regards the issue or the challenge of unemployment is concerned in our country. One, we have already highlighted about it, that it has to inculcate a positive attitude towards these jobs that are whereby skilling is supposed to be emphasized. The youth have to be skilled, not necessarily carrying out the syllabus or the curriculum which was for our colonial masters, that was introduced by our colonial masters, whereby practical work is less. If maybe certain things you can find that phones are made from outside, but if the government emphasized that under practical lessons, certain things also have to be done in our country, then the child or the student may be given the skills of making certain things, and whereby you find that student also at the end of the course has something to do, which is income earning, or earns that student an income. Secondly, the attitude these students have is also a challenge. The government has to find ways of making or motivating these students that at the end of the course there are ready jobs. There are ready jobs. The government has to look into situations of creating jobs for these students, because making them despair. That's why they are running out of the country and facing a number of challenges. So they have to be imparted into that attitude that they shouldn't be job seekers only, but as well as the job creators. And the rate at which these old men who are occupying offices, the government also has to look into that issue, whereby if one clocks a retirement age, must strictly retire and leave the office for the youth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. In addition to that, I've actually seen that in Uganda there is a lack of independence by some by some of our running organs. For example, we have laws that are meant to govern the development of the country, but the implementation is not clearly observed. For example, there is this organ, the IGG, that is meant to fight corruption in Uganda. And corruption is not only in one way, but in very many ways. So we find that when the one in charge of that tries to fight a certain character that may lead to problems, there are some people in some other departments, say organs of the government, that do fail it. For example, when you look at this issue of COSESA, it is under the parliamentary committees. But you find that when arguments are being brought from that side, some members of the executive are coming on to support things they know they are not suit, and yet they have established a body that has to fight that. So this means that the country continues in this. Those organs are formulated, but they are not given powers to do whatever they can do to improve the development and provision of services to people, and which would be a way of trying to eliminate unemployment amongst the youth. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really nice having a chat with you. Let's hope we will get help from the government, because youth have really suffered. We want to scrap this unemployment thing, because our youth of today, these are our leaders of tomorrow. Those people will be old anytime and they will be out. So we are still energetic. I hope everything will be okay. Let's just keep hope alive. Thank you.
Thank you.